Did we just find the perfect dupe to the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette? Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. So for today's video, I think we might have found the perfect dupe to the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, and that is the Alter Ego Costa palette. I'm gonna be comparing these two palettes together, showing you guys how I got this eye look and which one I think is actually worth it. So you guys wanna see all of that, well then definitely keep on watching. Alrighty guys, so before we dive into how I did this eye look today, I kind of want to go over both palettes. So if you guys know, you guys have known that I have been reviewing Alter Ego now for 4, maybe 5 years. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but I've been reviewing them for so long. And Alter Ego is essentially, it's a dupe brand. I don't want to say that, but like essentially it is a dupe brand because they create palettes based on existing palettes, but at a third of the cost. I absolutely love their formula. They have some amazing formula out there, and their concepts and their designs are really, really beautiful. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. The first one we're gonna have is the Coastal palette right here. Now this actually does retail for $20. You guys can use my code, which is Dawson10, to save 10% off when shopping at Alter Ego. And the reason why it's Dawson10, because I got asked that question, is because there is a really well-known YouTuber on here. You guys might have heard of her. Her name is Allie Dawson, and she also has a discount code with Alter Ego, so hers is Allie. Mine is Dawson because we just happen to have the same name. But yeah, that's the story. That's the tea. But here is the Alter Ego Coastal palette. First off, I really do love the packaging. The packaging on this is just so freaking gorgeous. I love like the Florida feel. Like it just reminds me of being at the beach so much. And I really can't tell. I think this is more of a sunset than a sunrise palette, but just the concept of it is just so freaking beautiful. And then when you open the inside, you do have 18 beautiful shades in here that definitely represent the palette beautifully. Now, when you look at this, you're probably like, oh my gosh, I have seen this palette before, because, well, you have. You have definitely seen this palette before because this is a dupe to the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. Now, the difference between the two palettes is definitely how they lay out the palette. So here is the Coastal palette. You guys can see that they have a certain layout, and what I really do appreciate about them is that even though they do dupe high-end palettes, they like to rearrange the shadows in here so that they look exactly identical but not in the same layout, and they really do take their time with like the packaging where they make it look different. So like here's the Rose Quartz palette right here from Huda Beauty, and you guys can see from the outside packaging they look completely different. Like they really do. But when you open the inside, you guys can definitely see the comparison between the two. Now when it comes to the Huda Beauty palette, this palette is going to be like a nice like hard plasticky palette with like a beautiful rose quartz on it, and it has like a clear packaging almost, so you can kind of like see right through with a nice big size mirror. But you guys can see we have the layout right here, and then you open up the Coastal palette, you guys can see that while the shades are pretty much identical, they're definitely in a different order completely. So they're both going to have 18 shades in here from a mix of shimmers, mattes, and duochromes. The Coastal palette retails for $20. The Huda Beauty does retail for $69. Definitely a difference in price points. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys right here the difference between the two. I actually did take the time to swatch the palettes individually as well as together. So I put the shimmers to the shimmers, the mattes to the mattes. You guys can really see the difference between the two. Now I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to the shimmers, I definitely think that the Huda Beauty had a little bit more pigmentation to the shimmers versus the Alter Ego. I just felt like their shimmers just stood out just a little bit more. They both felt the same. They both felt really creamy and buttery, but the Huda Beauties just felt a little bit more pigmented. When comparing it to the mattes, there's definitely they're definitely pretty much identical, although I feel like a few shades were just a tad bit off in like the undertones, but the mattes swatched beautifully. Now when comparing the two, I would definitely say the Alter Ego mattes swatched better and softer and had more pigmentation than the Huda Beauty. So it's so funny to kind of compare the two because I feel like the mattes definitely are winning for the Alter Ego, but the shimmers are winning for the Huda Beauty when comparing the two, but both are going to be really, really gorgeous on their own. Now I really do like it because if you put two side by side, they are pretty much the same shape. Like, I mean, like literally almost like the same shape. They're pretty much identical in terms of like how they are size-wise. I feel like they really are. And I feel like just like honestly looking at the two, you really can't tell the difference. Like even like on my eyes, I'm not gonna tell you which eye is which right now. I feel like you really can't tell the difference between the two eyes. I can for certain things, but I feel like honestly you really couldn't. So I would definitely say Alter Ego did a good job when duping the Huda Beauty palette. So now that we kind of went over the comparisons, the price points, the swatches and everything, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in. I'm show you guys how I got the eye looks today, and then I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts or like first impressions of what I think of both palettes. So let's get you guys zoomed on in. Okay, so on this eye we're gonna go in with the Costa palette, and on this eye we're gonna go in with the Rose Quartz Huda Beauty palette. I am so excited because I have pretty much been reviewing Alter Ego since like 2018, 2019. That's how long I've been reviewing this brand, and I absolutely love their palettes. And I know that some people get irritated because they are like a dupe palette, but sometimes the dupes are better. Like it really is. And like the formula on the Alter Ego palettes are just so freaking good. So we're gonna do just an easy eye look today. I'm gonna go into the shade called Shell right here, and we're gonna use this as like our base. Now, I still think that one of my favorite Alter Ego palettes that I've ever played with is their Goddess palette, because that is the Natasha Denona, because that is the dupe for the Natasha Denona Gold palette, which I actually don't have that palette. I don't even think they make that palette anymore, if I'm gonna be really real with you guys. I do not think they make that palette anymore, but that is still such a beautiful, beautiful palette. I love the Goddess palette. It's probably one of the few palettes from Alter Ego that I would be like, I would never in a million years get rid of, because it's just so pretty. It's just so pretty. Now, what I really do love about the Alter Ego formula is how like pigmented it is. It's so pigmented, and yet it's so easy to work with. I absolutely love their products. Their mattes are so blendable and so easy to work with, and their shimmers definitely are super soft and buttery. And I remember before, I forgot what palette it was. It could have been the Aurora palette, or there's another palette that I recently reviewed of the Alter Ego, and I did review it against their counterpart, and I remember distinctly saying that I would prefer to buy the Alter Ego version over the high ends, just because like the high end's getting really expensive. Now granted, Alter Ego's palette used to be about $16, and now this one's about $20. But I also believe that every other beauty brand out there is also raising the prices as well. So it's not just Alter Ego. I think that's just where we are right now. Our brands are just getting to be a little bit more expensive. But if I'm honest, I'd rather pay $20 for a palette versus like $70 for a palette. I'm going to take the shade called Jellyfish right here, and we're going to help to blend that out. It's very, very light in pigment, so just know that like if it looks a little patchy, it's not the palette. It's just the shades. Now, this palette definitely does have a lot of kick up in the pan, so just be mindful of that. Like there's a lot of kick up. Now, instead of doing a cut crease, because I don't want to do a cut crease today because the shadows in here are so light, I'm actually gonna go in with a little bit of glitter glue. This is the NYX glitter glue right here, and we're gonna lay this down for these shimmers. I just want to do like a really easy eye look today. I just want to show pretty much how similar these formulas, just show you guys how similar these shadows are and how similar the formula is. I was actually even quite impressed that they were even able to replicate this shadow called Coral, like from the Huda Beauty thing. This like weird like jelly-like shadow, which I don't like it on my Huda Beauty. Like look at my Huda Beauty version of it. It is just like this really weird like mixture now. I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of the way that the texture is, the way that jelly-like. I don't use it. I just don't use it. So now we're gonna go into the shade called Sparkle. That though is such a beautiful shade. Holy crap. Do you guys see that? Wow, that is gorgeous. This is a beautiful duochrome shift too. It's hard to tell on camera, but it definitely has a gorgeous duochrome shift. Then I'm going to go into the shade called Pearl, because this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. Oh my god, yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is just so pretty. This is where we are with the Alter Ego palette. Like I said, it's very, very, very easy to work with. I didn't want to do anything super dramatic today. I kind of wanted to do something that was just really easy out the door. You could wear this with any look. You can wear this like with any outfit, any time of day, anywhere you go. Like that's something I really wanted to create with this, because that's like how I was with the Rose Quartz palette. Just very easy, everyday wearing palette. So now that this eye is done, we're going to go ahead and go into this eye. I'm cleaning obviously everything up, and we're going to come back and I'm going to kind of show you guys the comparison between the two. Okay, so on the Huda Beauty side, we're going to go into the shade called Happiness right here. Definitely some kick up in the pan there. Now I will say, when I was swatching the two palettes against each other, I feel like the Huda Beauty palette swatched better than the Alter Ego one did in terms of like the shimmers. To me, the shimmers had more pigmentation and they felt very creamy and buttery versus the Alter Ego. Now, Alter Ego's felt amazing, but I felt like the Huda Beauty's pigment was just really more in your face. But when it came to swatching the mattes, I just really feel I just really feel like the Alter Ego mattes definitely had more pigment to them. They were a lot softer and a lot easier to work with. So it's just really funny to kind of compare the two between like the shimmers and the mattes and see. Now looking at this shadow right here, this looks pretty much identical. Now I could definitely see a little bit of difference when I was swatching the two together. You could see a little bit of the difference, but not much. They pretty much are identical, which gets me so excited because I absolutely love the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. It is so freaking beautiful, but I know a lot of people out there were not really able to get their hands on this, and now you guys are going to be able to at a much more affordable rate with a fantastic brand. Now, I feel like on this side, I don't know, but I feel like this shadow is not wanting to blend out as much as the Alter Ego did. So, like, they are blending. Like, don't think they're not blending, but I just feel like this one blended out a little bit easier than the Huda Beauty side did. I don't know why that's happening, but it is. So, we're going to go into the glitter glue once more. So, I'm going to do the exact same steps. And I'm going to take the shade called Moon Magic, which when I reviewed this palette, this was my absolute favorite shade. There's something about it that I just thought was so like magical. To me, it's such a beautiful shade. So let's see how this lays down. Wow, okay. Okay, so comparing the two, this one definitely has a tad bit more pigment than this one does. This one definitely is standing out just a little bit more, but the color between the two is seriously identical. I just feel like the Huda one just has a little bit more pow in your face. And I even said that when I did the swatches, that the Huda Beauty, just the shimmers are just a little bit more pigmented than the Alter Ego one is. Then we're going to take this shade called Blissful right here, and we're going to put that right in that inner corner as well. I actually think that I prefer the pearl shimmer here more than this one. I feel like this one just isn't as like golden champagne-y color that I'm looking for. It's a little bit more harsh than the other one is, but that's okay. Okay, so this is definitely the two eyes right here. I'm gonna go throw on my face. We're gonna come back and I'm gonna kind of show you guys the comparison of the two. I think for the under eye for both, I think I'm just gonna do like the same. I think for the under eye for both, I'm gonna go into like the Serenity shade right here, like this like kind of like mauvey purple shade for both. So that would be the shade Breeze on this side. So that way we can come back and kind of look at the two close up together. And then I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts on the Coastal palette versus the Rose Quartz palette. Okay, so here's the finished look up close. I kind of just really want to show you guys the difference. So here is the Alter Ego side. Here is the Huda Beauty side. And honestly, both are incredibly beautiful. I feel like you really couldn't tell the difference between the two unless you like really got up close to my face and were like, something's off. Now, if I'm gonna be really real with you guys, I feel like I like one aspect of one eye and one aspect of the eye over each other. So on the Alter Ego side, I absolutely love the shade called Pearl. This shade Pearl right here, I think is really beautiful. Like this is that perfect shade that I'm looking for. I feel like it's just that perfect like champagne-y pink color. Blends very beautifully with that sparkle shade right here. And I really do enjoy the matte. And I feel like this side was a lot easier to work with in terms of like the mattes being super blendable, but they were also not as pigmented as the Huda Beauty side. So while I really do love this side, I love that pearl shade, I definitely feel like these two are not as pigmented as the Huda Beauty side. Now, if you look at the Huda Beauty side right here, I will definitely say that the shade called Happiness was definitely a bit more pigmented than the Alter Ego side, but it did not blend out as easily as the Alter Ego side. So there's that. I also feel like the shade called Moon Magic definitely had a lot more pigmentation than the Alter Ego side. However, the shade called Blissful just was a little bit not the color that I'm looking for. It's a beautiful shade. Don't let me steer you the wrong direction. It's a beautiful shade, but I prefer the pearl shade on this side. So it's so funny to like compare the two together because when I look at them, I love each eye on their own, but there's definitely certain aspects that I prefer from each eye. If I can combine the two together, oh my gosh, Oh, I can, technically. Duh, I technically can. But yes, this is the eye looks right here. Like I said, you really couldn't tell the difference in the two unless you're looking up close. So let me go ahead and zoom you guys out and I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts, or kind of like my first impressions on the Alter Ego palette, because I am gonna be doing a wrap up later this month. Alrighty guys, so obviously this is the final look. I'll make sure I link everything I wear on my face down below. But I have to say, I'm really, really impressed with the Alter Ego palette. I think Alter Ego did such a gorgeous job with this palette. First off, the packaging. I absolutely love the packaging. I love the coastline, especially being here in Florida where I get to go to the beach anytime I want. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's such a beautiful packaging. And then when you open the inside, you do have beautiful shades that complement the packaging beautifully. Like, they really are such gorgeous shades. The mattes are so pigmented. They are so soft and they blend out beautifully. And the shimmers are very creamy and buttery. They really, really are. And I feel like they did such a good job with this shade called Coral right here, which we did not play today because I just don't really care for this particular like jelly like substance. It's just not a thing for me. But they did such a phenomenal job at capturing the essence in the Huda Beauty palette. Like, for like to the T, they did such a great job. Now, this palette does retail for $20. You guys can use my code Dawson10, which will save you guys 10% off whenever purchasing anything at Alter Ego. But like I said, if you guys wanted to get the Huda Beauty palette but didn't want to spend the money on this because this does retail for $69, honestly, just go for the Alter Ego side. You really cannot tell the difference between the two. Both are beautiful palettes. I absolutely love both formulas in here. And I just think that when it comes down to it, if I had to pick one to like use or recommend, honestly, I'd recommend the Alter Ego. There's just something about their formula that is just top notch. I absolutely have been obsessed with the Alter Ego formula for years. I've constantly recommended their palettes. They do such a phenomenal job at duping high-end palettes, but at such an affordable rate. Like, their palettes are a third of the cost of the high-end. And a lot of times, their formula is better. Yeah, guys, that is it for today's video. Like I said, I will be doing a wrap up at the end of the month where I'm doing my speed reviews, going over everything I tried out this month. Based upon first impression, this palette is gorgeous. So with that said, guys, make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys haven't already, because I do post 4 to 5 videos every single week. Make sure you guys head over to my other channels, Art for Life. You guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures, my amazing husband, Corey. And as always, the biggest thank you goes to these beautiful, wonderful Patreon members you guys see right here. Thank you guys so much for everything. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribed, you guys did not subscribe, either way, thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye! And Alter Ego definitely is one of those brands. And Alter Ego at such an, because they create palettes based on shadows. And okay, so now that I think Alter Ego did such a gorgeous job.